Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars.com. We're here at the National Press Club where Alex Jones is expected to speak here and release his bombshell news announcement where he's going to be pushing back against draining the swamp, pushing back against censorship. We have a host of speakers here. We have Jack Posobiec, Rob Dew, Leanne McAdoo, Jerome Corsi. So this should be huge, and I'm excited. I don't know exactly what's going to be talked about yet, but we will just have to wait and find out. Well, it shouldn't be too long before Alex Jones comes out here and we begin the press club announcement.
I gotta flip it.
Operation blocked.
Here, give me the mic and just go sit right beside him. Okay.
Here he is. Here's Alex Jones. He's arrived on the scene.
Better move this American flag over here. Clear up any doubt, okay?
For those of you guys who are just now jumping on this feed, the press release is about to start in less than 5 minutes here at the National Press Club, where Alex Jones is set to give his big announcement, which he titles Alex Jones Pushing Back Against the Swamp. We have Jack Posobiec scheduled to speak, Rob Dew, Jerome Corsi, Leanne McAdoo, and Alex Jones very shortly here. It should start within 5 minutes.
Give us a countdown before you start.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us here at the National Press Club. I'm just going to pull up the speakers list because even there's so many people, I forgot who's going to be speaking here. I sent it on an email.
It's all right. Just keep going on up there until you're speaking.
Yeah. All right. There we got it. Okay. Well, let's get this thing started. Thank you for joining us here. I'm glad to see members of the press here at this crucial juncture in our time. My name is Rob Dew. I'm the news director at Infowars.com. I'm not a Russian bot or an agent or an anonymous source or a source familiar with anything. The first two things are pejoratives used by the MSM to downplay news or popular topics. And the second are things that are used to validate leaks and whisper campaigns and anything the MSM wants to throw out into the world to keep their narrative going. No, I'm not any of those. I'm just an American who's looking for the American dream and who's always been curious about what's been behind the curtain. And that curiosity led me to two books. The first one's None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. whose son now runs Politico, and the second was Who Runs Congress by the Ralph Nader Congress Project. Both of those books helped develop what I felt was really going on in the world and what was really happening. And then I moved in 1998 to Austin, Texas, and I heard this growling voice on the radio, that man back there, Alex Jones, and who was openly talking about the things I've been reading about. In 2009, I started working for him, and during that time, I've interviewed economists, historians, trends forecasters, climatologists, doctors, and mathematicians, most of whom had facts that were different from the mainstream media narrative. And during that time that I've seen all these things happen, it kind of led up to what happened in 2016, but I'll get to that in one second. You know, they were, but most of the things these guys were saying was that our current course is unsustainable. And I'm not talking about in an environmental way. I'm talking about the money system. I'm talking about our health system. I'm talking about the stuff we put out in the environment that's really dangerous to humankind. The genetic splicing that's going on and other things. Our bodies and our children's bodies are a lot unhealthier, and we've truly lost our connection with nature and our moral compass. When my parents went to school, they had shotguns in their backs of their cars, and nobody thought anything of it. Now a kid brings to school to protect himself from a mass shooter, which is a very rare event, but you wouldn't think so from the way the mainstream media portrays it. And most of these kids that are these school shooters have been hopped up on drugs, psychotropics, and they're living with parents that are oblivious to their children's world because they're too busy updating their Facebook status. Now, up until 2016, that was fine. The mainstream media was fine with that. But since that time, since Donald Trump started running for president, they've been having a freak out. They've been going crazy. They've been wanting to change the narrative and create things out of nothing, essentially. Take, for instance, the CNN story of Donald Trump feeding fish. That became an international news, and it was totally fake. He did the exact same thing that the Prime Minister of Japan did. But it didn't matter. So where are we now? Now we have Diamond and Silk, two middle-aged black women that Facebook deems unsafe for the community. We have Richard Pan, a man who is forcing every child who wants to go to school in California to get vaccinated, creating laws saying that every website has to have fact checkers and plans and anything that they deem is unsafe. So who's going to put this narrative out there, what is true? They want the government narrative to be the true narrative. And that's why we're all here today. And that's why Alex Jones is here today. And he's got some great announcements to be making. I'm very happy to be part of this. And with that, I'm going to bring up Jack Posobiec.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My tablet up here. So I wanted to read an excerpt from a speech that was written a very long time ago. I'm not going to tell you who wrote the speech just yet. I want you to try to guess. As I'm reading it, I want you to try to guess who wrote these words and when they were written. I'll tell you, and I'll reveal it at the end. It might take a few guesses, but here we go. We must not be confused about what freedom is. Basic human rights are simple and easily understood. Freedom of speech and a free press. Freedom of religion and worship. Freedom of assembly and the right of petition. The right of men to be secure in their homes and free from unreasonable search and seizure and from arbitrary arrest and punishment. We must not be deluded by the efforts of the forces of reaction to prostitute the great words of our free tradition and thereby to confuse the struggle. Democracy, freedom, human rights have come to have a definite meaning to the people of the world, which we must not allow any nation to change so that they are made synonymous with suppression and dictatorship. There are basic differences that show up, even in the use of words, between a democratic and a totalitarian country. We, on the other hand, feel that certain rights can never be granted to the government, but must be kept in the hands of the people. So the basic problem confronting the world today is the preservation of human freedom for the individual. We are fighting this battle again today as it was fought at the time of the American Revolution. The issue of human liberty is as decisive now as it was then. And I want to give you my conception of what is meant in my country by freedom of the individual. The totalitarian state typically places the will of the people second to the decrees promulgated by a few men at the top. Naturally, there must always be a consideration of the rights of others, but in a democracy, this is not a restriction. Indeed, in our democracies, we make our freedoms secure because each of us is expected to respect the rights of others, and we are free to make our own laws. Freedom for our peoples is not only a right, but also a tool. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of information, freedom of assembly. These are not just abstract ideals to us. They are tools with which we create a way of life in which we can enjoy freedom. Now, in the United States, we have a capitalistic economy. That is because public opinion favors that type of economy under the conditions in which we live. But we have imposed certain restraints. For instance, we have antitrust laws. These are legal evidence of the determination of the American people to maintain an economy of free competition and not to allow monopolies to take away the people's freedom. Among free men, the end cannot justify the means. We know the patterns of totalitarianism, the single political party, the control of the schools, press, radio, the arts, the sciences, and the church to support autocratic authority. These are the age-old patterns against which men have struggled for 3,000 years. These are the signs of reaction, retreat, and retrogression. The world at large is aware of the tragic consequences for human beings ruled by totalitarian systems. Politically, men must be free to discuss and to arrive at as many facts as possible, and there must be at least a two-party system in a country, because when there is only one political party, too many things can be subordinated to the interests of that one party, and it becomes a tyrant, and not an instrument of democratic government. Freedom for the individual is an inseparable part of the cherished traditions of our nation. As a citizen of the United States, I pray to Almighty God that we may win another victory here for the rights and freedoms of all men. Thank you. Okay, so who do you think it was? Who said that? Lincoln. Who else? One more guess.
Jefferson.
Not you. You know. Jefferson. That was Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt, 1948, speaking about the Soviet Union. And for me, I felt like it was appropriate to bring that speech up again today, because these ideals used to be bedrock in this country. These ideals, this way of thinking, used to be something upon which we all agreed, upon which the left, the right agreed upon. But now we've become so far apart that we've lost those core ideals that make us American. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Jack Posobiec doing a great job fighting the globalists. I'm going to be getting up here speaking, then some of my lawyers are going to be speaking, breaking some exclusive stuff. In fact, some of the stuff's so amazing now, we're not even sure we want to release it all quite yet, but it's incredible who is funding this thing publicly, and that the lawsuit looks like it was written by a 3-year-old. It's just bizarre how they take this Soros money and then do this, but it is designed to overturn the First Amendment. Now, Dr. Jerome Corsi, great patriot, 3-time #1 New York Times best-selling author who's helped really decide at least one major election. He's been targeted, he's been demonized, he's being censored. He's going to be up here speaking. He's also an Infowars.com reporter. He's coming up here in just a minute. But first, Roger Stone's here. He's going to be speaking towards the end. I wanted to briefly bring Roger up here because Roger's got some big breaking news that he's also going to be laying out coming up. Now, again, he's just going to give you a little preview of this, and then he'll be back in about 45 minutes. Towards the end, we're going to have a question and answer as well for the press that's here, and we're also going to obviously have these live streams continuing. But Roger, I wanted you to just give people a preview of what's coming up before Dr. Corsi speaks.
Great. Thank you, Alex. I'm delighted to be here. I'm honored to be here. I'm glad that Alex Jones said, "Get me Roger Stone." 2016 was the year in which the mainstream media lost their hammerlock, their complete monopoly on political discourse in this country. Donald Trump's election, in fact, the entire sea change in American politics, was only made possible through a robust and vibrant alternative media allowed through an unfettered internet. Now, those who realize they have made a mistake by having such an open dialogue seek to put the toothpaste back in the tube. This is not only about the 2016 and 2020 elections, it's about the slow motion coup that's going on in this country, where a fabricated dossier can be used to justify legally the illegal surveillance, the unconstitutional surveillance on the Republican candidate for president of the United States. But you see, those who are the perps in that crime don't want any discussion of that crime in the mainstream or the alternative media, and that is why they seek, through a very, I think, duplicitous strategy of lawfare and censorship to shut us down. It has many different parts. The key to this, of course, is the lawsuits, and I'm facing one from an Obama-blessed front called Project Democracy, who are suing me and Donald Trump, the allegation being that we worked with the Russians to hack the Democratic National Committee and give that material to WikiLeaks. That is as unprovable in a court of law as it will be unprovable in the court of public opinion, because it's a fairy tale, a falsehood, a lie, a canard, a steaming plate of, well, you know. The point here, of course, is that if they can silence us, if they can take us off of Facebook, off of Twitter, off of YouTube, if they can silence your voice, it becomes much easier to drive their false narrative about the 2016 election, their false narrative about the unconstitutional activities going on today, whether it is raiding Donald Trump's lawyer's office, whether it is breaking into a storage locker that Paul Manafort owns without a warrant, or whether it is the illegal surveillance of the Republican candidate for president under FISA warrants that were fabricated in their rationale, fabricated in their purpose. And then, of course, there's the Second Amendment. Silence us before you attempt to take away our Second Amendment rights. This is a struggle. This is the single most important struggle. Why? Because without our voice, all other issues, trade, immigration, the economy, we are at an enormous disadvantage. The real story here is that the American left no longer is interested in dialogue or debate. They can't win a debate. They don't want a debate. They don't want a discussion of issues. Their answer when we raise facts and arguments is silence them, censor them, close them down. That's why you know they have lost. Thank you.
And Ronder's going to be back up later getting into the raid on the president's New York building on his lawyer, now Robert Mueller's, over Stormy Daniels. That's, I guess they're going to find some Russian intel in her underwear drawer. So that's where this is all going. But we're here today specifically on the hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits being filed and financed by George Soros, the Democratic Party, being launched by Hillary's former law clerks, you name it, against InfoWars and against many, many others. I've had 13 of them filed, 6, now 7 have been disappeared, and we're preparing to have countersuits and some other things as well, just to basically punish the people for filing these frauds. So I'm going to be breaking that down in detail here in just a moment. But again, Dr. Jerome Corsi now is going to say a few words about the attack and the attempt to overturn the First Amendment so that all the others collapse.
Great, thank you, Alex. Thank you very much. I'm Jerome Corsi, and it's a real pleasure to be here today. I've been a member of this club for many years. Great to have Alex here. I want you to know that I view this as we're at the beginning here of what is going to be a second American Revolution. The Second American Revolution, I believe, that is being waged by millions of anonymous people all across the country who are putting their voices behind freedom and behind the Constitution. What's going on right now, and I think the special prosecutor in his thug motions lately, no reason to do anything as he did with Michael Cohen yesterday. I've known Michael Cohen for many, many years. Michael Cohen's a gentleman loyal to Donald Trump, and he would gladly have complied with anything the special prosecutor reasonably asked to be done. The special prosecutor did not need to treat Michael Cohen like a criminal, breaking into his office, his home. This is thuggery. This is not the way the United States of America is to be conducted. This is a complete violation of civil rights and civil behavior. What's at stake now is the Constitution itself. Because as I maintained in the book I currently have written, Killing the Deep State, that what we have right now is a coup d'etat that was launched within the FBI and has spread across the entire justice system, the CIA, into the Obama White House. And the crimes that have been committed are most easily defined as treason. And I believe that President Trump will begin quickly here a counterattack in which the real crimes will be prosecuted. The real crimes being Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, whom I read a chapter, were virtually on Putin's payroll. Were being paid millions of dollars for having sold military secrets and the reset to Russia, including this hypersonic technology. We are at a crossroads in which we have to defend the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and the Constitution itself. And I know of no better champion of the Constitution, our freedom, than Alex Jones. It's been my honor and privilege to be with Alex now going on to a second year, and I'm honored to have him here. And I want to turn the podium back over to Alex. And thank you for all coming out here today. But what we're here to do is to celebrate freedom and to make sure we pursue the First Amendment vigorously in all the spirit with which it was written. And as I say, I know no one better to champion that theme, our Constitution, the First Amendment, than Alex Jones. Thank you.
First off, again, thanks for coming out today. I'm going to have one of my lawyers speak with some really important information. Andrew Grossman, a lot of you obviously know him, seen him on C-SPAN, Fox News, you name it, as a leading First Amendment lawyer and a scholar and expert to break down this lawsuit against us, which is like all the others, totally new in law. And that's from the lawyers, that's from the experts. I haven't just gotten some of the best counsel in the country here in DC. I've gone to other counsel professors and had them look at it, other top First Amendment trial lawyers, and they say that what it is propaganda, 50, 60, 70, 80-page filings that then defame myself, the First Amendment, the President Trump, you name it, where they just say all these horrible things that aren't true, things that we never said, knowing that they are protected in defamation inside the court. So they sue you for defamation. They put the defamation in their filing against you. The dying corporate media then picks it up and goes out and puts it out as gospel and then calls for InfoWars as a precedent-setting case to be deplatformed. And going back about 2 months ago, the CEO, the new CEO of News Corp, while they're merging with Disney, said we're going to shut down WikiLeaks and Alex Jones and ISIS, put us together. And he said once we've shut them down, he said he just met with the tech giants, Google, Facebook, Twitter, we're going to deplatform everybody. And you'll have about 100 choices. This was in the Wall Street Journal. About 100 choices, and then we're going to make hundreds of billions of dollars. And others picked it up and had the headlines, hold on to your tinfoil hat, Alex Jones, because YouTube is about to ban you. And then they removed videos and said that we said no one died at Parkland and that they were all crisis actors and 24, 25 years old. There was no video of that. They removed our videos and said those videos said that. There was a problem. I had a platform. We re-uploaded the exact videos, the exact files. They had over now 14 million views in about 3 days, Drudge linked to it, and everyone saw students saying, we saw the sheriff's department stand down. That was the videos, was the students saying that Coward County stood down. And now we knew why they took them down 3 days in. We were the first to report that. We have the students on, and we showed the local news clips that they didn't want to get out nationally. And that's why they fear InfoWars or Drudge Report or the Daily Caller or Breitbart or people like Mr. Kincaid right here. is even though we all have diverse, different ideas, we're pro-America, we try to tell the truth. Doesn't mean we don't get some things wrong sometimes. And they don't like the fact that we can challenge their narrative. They didn't want you to hear from those students that saw the stand down. They didn't want the story to be about the stand down. They want it to be about, oh, these 4 students they chose out of 3,000 to be the poster children for disarming the American people. So they've told us, we don't like you putting out different talking points, different ideas than what the Soros Democratic Party funded media wants. And that's the real sin of InfoWars. And that's why we've got to be misrepresented as racist, as Russian agents, as saying Alex Jones believes that there's Martian slave colonies. There's no video, there's no audio, there's no nothing.